All right, let's get into the game, shall we? The All-Star game. Maori beat the Indigenous side 10-6. And I tell you what, look, I just don't know why, for the last couple of years, every time we get close to this game, there's these like whispers of like, oh, should we have this game? Should we not have this game? Does it need to be moved? It's not. Bro, we have to have this game. Like, tell me that wasn't exciting, that game. Please tell me, look me square in the face and be serious and tell me that wasn't exciting. All the way to the death, even the war cries before the game, it was an absolutely outstanding game to watch. And look, I'd be more than happy to get up here and say, if the quality was poor and it wasn't exciting, to say that wasn't that enjoyable. That was an exciting game for me.
Yeah, and I'll take ownership. I had a brief moment last week where I saw Latrell wasn't playing, Cody wasn't playing, Hughes wasn't playing, and I sort of thought, oh, geez, I don't know. But mate, by the end of that game, I just went, you idiot.
You just can't.
This is fantastic. It is such a special event. Maybe it's the fact that we only see it once a year and it's so long between drinks. I don't know, but mate, I love that game the other day. How on earth those guys put in a performance like that in their first hit out of the year?
Crazy.
Like with unlimited subs, for there to be not a point scored in the first half.
You know what I reckon it is? And I'm guilty of this, and I can't believe I didn't like at least try. Like they could say no, but like next year I want to go in and vlog there. I want to go in and film it. I feel like we just don't get enough content out of the camps. I want to hear the stories. I want to hear the story of a young Indigenous fellow that may not have known his history as well, and then he goes into camp and he finds all about his tribe and his lineage and all that stuff, or a young Maori boy, or whatever it is, or girl. And I think that the content coming out, because no clubs are involved, and because Fox have got so many different things going on, I just don't think there's enough content coming out to engage with it. And I think next year, obviously they can say no, but I would love to go into both camps and vlog the whole week, because I reckon it'd be sick. I reckon it'd be sick.
Yeah, it was unreal game, wasn't it? Like, and those that are a bit cynical about it will look at it and go, oh, no tries by half time, 3 tries in the game, a little bit scrappy. But when you look at the NRL trials, we love them because we're footy nerds. But a lot of people out there will be like, oh, too many choppy and changing, it doesn't mean enough. You saw in the All Stars game in that final 20 minutes when they were gassed out on their feet in the first proper hit out of the season, the intensity and what it meant to these players and how much they wanted to win. You didn't have that across any of the NRL trials, and you never will because it's pre-season. But the All Stars game, every person out there was playing that like a grand final. And yeah, sure, the quality might not have been there. Firstly, because they're a bunch of players who a lot haven't played together, but that'll happen to every NRL team in round one. You'll be clunky, it happens. Yeah. But, from Brent Naden running down the field to chase down Hiroti, I think it was, a moment there, Dane Gagai with a match-winning, knocking the ball out of the hands. There were so many great moments, and just the intensity that had and the hype around that final 10, 15, 20 minutes, it was brilliant.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I mean, look at when the Maori team did win. Like, you see, when was the last time you saw KP up and about like that? Like, would have been probably not last year, but the year before when they finished 5th or 6th.
Yep.
You see a superstar of our game, like literally probably the biggest superstar of our game, that emotionally invested, then like clearly that is something we want to try and draw more out of entertainment. And as I said, I do think like so you've got the Maori audience, the Indigenous audience, and then you've got wider Australia. I think that the important thing is like, how do you broadcast the meaning of this game to these two sides to the wider audience and go, oh, okay, let's say this is why it means this, or this is why they're so passionate about it. What do you think of the game, Hammy?
Yeah, I mean, it was such an exciting, tight kind of game. And the scoreboard, you probably think, oh, geez, it might have been a bit dour, but like you're on the edge of your seat right till the end, which is exactly what you want. Some high pressure plays. You're spot on though, what you say about getting a bit more content and access to what happens in the camp. And obviously there's probably some parts of the camp which are quite personal and private to the players that are in it, but you hear all of them say after that week, they go, that was probably one of the best weeks of my career. I learned so much more about my culture, about my family, all this sort of stuff. But from us, from the outside, we don't really see so much what they're talking about. It would be great to kind of get a bit of a sense for that. And that probably would, if we were able to see that, might kind of tone down some of the chat where people go, do we really need this game? Is it playing that much of a role? Because clearly it's something very important to everyone that's involved in it. But the game was unbelievable, very tight, obviously. Good to see Big Shaq get the first try of the game, and the way that he spoke about that after the game as well, like. Such a big night for him, kind of, leading the pre-game ceremony as well. Very exciting. And, some of the big moments we had. Good to see Brent Naden, big try saver. Good signs for a big season for Brent.
How good is he looking?
Yeah.
Mate, well, the yarn coming out of last year was basically the Tigers and him were going to part ways.
Yeah.
And then I think, again, the report was that basically they had a very honest conversation. Naden made it extremely clear to them, no, I want to stay. I want to work through this. I want to be the best. Look, Naden, I mean, the whole drama about the grand final at Penrith Panthers, I know that it ended up coming out the bad, him stuffing up the night before or whatever. You actually go back and watch that game, he was one of their best players when he came on the field. This is a guy that was coming through Penrith's younger grades with all the guns they've got now. That's how highly touted he was. There has always been a super high ceiling in Naden. It's just a matter of finding that consistency. Talent has never been an issue with Naden. And that's what's so good about games like this. It gives opportunities like that to showcase guys that, aren't as big as superstars as you say your KPs or, whoever else, want to talk about in regards to the All-Star game. So, that chase from him, what I loved about it, on the camera angle, you could only see the other winger initially.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting there going, oh, okay, this is absolutely a try. And then Naden just comes steaming into shot, gets the try saver, unbelievable stuff.
I think media coverage-wise, it's I think a great comparison is the Anzac round. The way the NRL do that with the mini docos and the stories and even all the papers and all that, the articles that they put together and the stories that are told, they do it brilliantly. It doesn't necessarily have to be that full on, but just lean into it like they do Anzac round, because the coverage they put around Anzac round, I get so excited for it every single year, and the stories that come off the back for something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a matter of because, as I said, because the clubs aren't in control of it, because Fox have so much going on, they got all these trials at different venues they're trying to put on, and then so I just think that it's a matter of, and also the NRL now, they actually don't create as much content internally; they leave it to external companies, and so it's hard to kind of get the word out there. But as I said, for me personally, I'm going to try, and if they might say no next year, but I would love to be able to go in and vlog the week with the Maldives and the Indigenous side, because I reckon it'd be really, really interesting, especially interesting from an outsider's perspective of what it means to them and the explanation. All right, in regards to performances of the game, I saw this article after the game saying Kinney completely outshines Ponga. Was I watching the same game? Don't get me wrong, Kinney was great. I thought Ponga was outstanding. He looked a cut above to me. I'm really excited for Ponga's new year. I thought he looked super, super switched on. He looked really fit. His repeat efforts, he was involved in the game quite a lot. I thought KP looked outstanding. I think Knights fans should be excited.
Yeah, I think both of them looked unreal.
Yeah.
Knights and Titans fans very excited, but I think putting Kenny above KP is a bit of a stretch.
What?
Yeah, he was. Sometimes with KP, it frustrates me at times. It probably hasn't been for the last year or so, to be fair, that sometimes in that Knights side it doesn't feel like his team all the time. That team was his team from the kickoff. He was in total control the entire time.
Yeah, that's a good point. You could have, one knock on KP maybe 2 or 3 years ago would be, you've got all this talent, you just need to step up and just be whatever I want, you need to do it to the rest of the team.
If he didn't have a one on his back there, you could have convinced me he was playing 5'8". That's how involved he was.
For sure.
He was everywhere.
He was absolutely everywhere. And he just looked dangerous every time he touched the ball. What do you think of KP, Timmy?
Yeah, he looked good. He was well contained by the Indigenous side. But again, first hit out of the season in the conditions were not suited for attacking footy at all, especially a bloke of the way, Kalyn Ponga plays his footy. Quite expansive, throws the ball around, chances his arm at times. But as I said, physically he looks fantastic. He looks quick, he looks sharp. But yeah, from an Indigenous point of view, I thought they contained him really well.
I was super impressed by the standard of actual defence over the weekend. Now, I know there were some blowouts in scores, but there were quite a few games that I was actually quite impressed with the defence of a lot of teams heading into trials. Usually, you're falling off tackles and you slip, the contact isn't that good. But, the Indigenous defence was outstanding.
KP's, the hit he made, the try saver on Ty Munro, I think it was, that was out. And you talk about the importance of the All Stars clash and what it means to him. He threw everything to stop Ty Munro.
Especially with his history.
Yeah, he's not doing that in a Knights trial, and nor should he. Like, if you're a coach, you're going, please don't. Like, look after yourself. But that's how much you want to win that game.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, if you ever need an example, there's no way he's doing a trial. He'd be almost stupid doing a trial, and yet he, with all his history and, you know, nearly literally being lost to the game, and then he gets up on a stage that's the biggest to him and does something like that. I mean, that's something that, like, is on highlight reels for years. He genuinely put everything on the line. And also, Munro, he's not a small winger. Like, I know he's going to build out into his frame, but he's still like 6'2", big boy, would probably be at least 92, 93 kilos.
And, mate, he has built out a little bit in the offseason. He was going to be my next talking point. 19 runs he took at the footy. That's
so
unreal.
good.
That he topped the game for the Indigenous All Stars.
Like, if you're a Rabbitohs fans, that is exactly what you've been missing.
Well, the top two runs, Tallis Duncan and Ty Munro. Ty Munro to take 19 runs in, I think it was about 65 minutes. That's like my only concern with Ty Munro. He's a freak. He can do it all, but, you know, work out of his own end. I think you need to do it in the modern game, and I think he's really taken that on board.
Especially with the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Like, if there's one knock on their backline at the moment without Graham and without Whiten, it's like they just don't have the ball carriers.
Well, you look at Latrell. We know he's not going to have 23 runs a game as a fullback. When Alex Johnston comes back in, he's not a big yardage winger. So their back three, there's not a lot of needs there when it's them three on deck. So you're right, Roo. Like, Ty Munro, he does have to lean into and probably pick up. Not that it was a knock in the past, because he was small, he was young, he's still young, but he's grown into his body, so that bit extra size, it wouldn't shock if Wayne said, mate, I need you to go from 13, 14 runs a game to you need to get to that 20 mark for him, because our back three needs it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, if he's still getting around those numbers, and then you've got Campbell Graham, then you've got Whiten as well, that's when you can afford to have a guy like Johnston on the wing just scoring tries, because you've got three other guys, Johnson and Latrell, that are more just there for attacking weapons. Now, granted, I do think Johnson's going to have to fight really hard to get back into that squad. But as I said, like, it's all about backline balance. And if Tyrone Munro was still in the early stages of his career where he's only going to have 10 to 12 runs, then you got to look at Johnson and go, mate, someone's going to have to pick up the slack. Like, someone has to. But yeah, super. I tell you what, coming out of their own end, a Campbell Graham, Whiten hit up, and then a Tyrone Munro, or, you know, a Munro, Campbell Graham, Whiten. Like, that's a great trio coming out of your own end, with the worry of Latrell Mitchell sniffing around the ruck with his ball playing. Another guy I want to shout out from the Indigenous side, Puru, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Man, he looked like, the fact that he is so far from first grade at the Sharkies right now. He's at the Sharkies still, isn't he?
Mate, I can't make any sense of him going to Cronulla. He was at the Canberra Raiders where he couldn't get a spot because their forward pack was so strong, and then he's gone to Cronulla. I'm not sure how he's going to get a spot in that side either. I think he's gone from maybe the second hardest team to get into in his position to maybe the hardest.
Yeah, it's interesting, but geez, he was good.
Mate, what about the intercept he took from Marker? I've never seen that before.
Literally never seen that.
Yeah, and look, he's been a very good player at the Raiders for the last years. He's gone to the Sharkies. That's going to be one hell of a New South Wales Cup team this year with Beryl and him and whatnot. I'd love to see a club reach out and get a hold of him.
Like,
that needs a 13.
Are they preparing for life without McInnes, maybe?
Maybe. When he signed, I straight away thought, okay, Cam McInnes won't be re-signing him. That was my first thought. And, geez, I think he would be such a nice little fit for the Sharkies if Cam McInnes was to leave.
Yeah, but surely, like, Cam McInnes, he's like almost the heart of that forward pack. So it's like, and did he just re-sign for another year, I think, Cam McInnes, 26?
Is there a world that if a Hazen or someone leaves, could you shift McInnes just into the middle rotation and maybe play Peru? Could that be their thinking, maybe?
Potentially. He was so good.
Mate, he's been so good for a long time. He just hasn't got the opportunity.
He was, he was outstanding. It's going to be the Sharkies. Like, we'll get to them, but geez, their depth is like actually insane. Actually insane. What they've built to that club over the last 3 or 4 years, you couldn't ask for much more. You really couldn't. No. But yeah, I thought Purdue was outstanding. I thought Connor Watson looks sharp. Looks good to go. Looks even more comfortable in that 9 jersey, which is good for the Roosters. Especially watching the Roosters, like, we'll get to it, but geez, I was quite surprised that they actually fielded a pretty strong trial team. Although I did think the 9 for the Roosters had some good moments, I think getting Connor Watson back in that team is vital, which is crazy to think a couple of years ago. he was almost seen as a utility somewhere. Oh, yeah, Connor Watson's on the bench. He covers a lot of position. Now he's becoming like a crucial part of a side that could, like, if Connor Watson in that side just might be enough to scrape him into the top 8 if they are to scrape in the top 8. That's how important he's become to the Roosters.
If they are to get into the 8 this year, he has to play 25 games, in my opinion.
And
I was
kill it.
about to say, like, who plays 9 if Watson goes down?
Well, yeah, Benaya started last night. He's a young guy coming through the grades. They've got a few other young guys there, but none of them have any experience.
And I thought the 9 on the weekend had some really good moments, really good ball running in that. But, I mean, again, it's what a journey for Connor Watson, going from a guy at the Knights that was getting moved around to different positions and then goes to the Roosters, gets injured, starts in reserve grade. All of a sudden, there's an argument to be made heading into this season, he's behind Teddy. He's probably arguably their most important spine member when it comes to where they're at form-wise in their careers right now.
I think right now he's definitely their most important spine player. Like, without him, like all the other guys, they lose them, it'll suck. But they've got guys that can step into that role.
As in the 6, 7, 9, not Teddy, obviously. Teddy's the number one.
Oh, for sure. But I think they've got more coverage for Teddy than they have for Connor, realistically.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's exciting though, isn't it? Because had he been playing 9 in a spine with Sam Walker there and obviously Teddy there, you're probably sitting there going, a lot of just dish, get them good early ball. That's the plan. Like the Roosters have lent into a fair bit in the past, and we've been a little bit critical of it. But coming into a side with a relative rookie in Sandon Smith, a veteran in Chad Townsend, who he'll have an impact in attack, of course, but there's a lot of opportunity for Trent Robinson to say to Connor Watson, mate, your running game is the best asset for you. Run it, attack, take them on. Like as soon as you get a quick play of the ball, split markers, just take off. It's exciting.
Yeah. Now, in regards to some other boys, I can't believe a couple of weeks ago, even in the trial, we're like, in the pre-season preview, which you can go and watch, guys, if you haven't, we're sitting there going, what's happening with Tallis Duncan? I'll tell you what's happening. He's on track to have easily the best year of his career. He was phenomenal. And you finally saw what all the hype's been about. We've been talking about Tallis Duncan for quite a while. He looked outstanding on the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that when it comes to the conversation around their forward pack, a lot of people seem to be under the impression they're a forward short. I think he's the guy that people are constantly sleeping on, forgetting about. And I think that to start the season, I think the Bunnies are going to have a few injuries to start the season. And I think if he gets an opportunity at the start of the year, it's going to be very hard to get him out of that side.
Yeah. When
all those guys come back, like Ewan Aikens, I'm not sure where Totola's at. But yeah, Duncan, I don't know, I'm so excited to see him under Wayne.
Well, so 56 minutes, and I think that's accurate because some of the trials, the minutes were all wrong.
I'm pretty sure these ones are accurate.
So 56 minutes, 20 runs, 160 metres, 72 post contact, only 1 tackle breaks, and he's still got those metres, 2 offloads, 28 tackles, only 3 misses. He had 1 or 2 errors, but like it's a trial. These things are bound to happen. But to have run for the most metres of anyone on the field, I'm pretty sure, let me just get that up to confirm it. Yep, ran more than Keon Kinney as a forward. As a young forward, that's a huge knock.
He's a bit like Cam Murray in that he just gets his body into good spots in contact too. He always puts his nose through. He always sort of gets to his elbows and knees. Yeah, I can't wait to see him with Wayne this year.
I think he's heaps like Cam Murray. Yeah. Like really, I feel like having not seen him stand side by side, but pretty similar builds. They're both like really mobile, lock forward, good late footwork, heaps similar.
Yeah. Also hot, which helps. Both hot.
Very similar.
The only difference would be Cam Murray a little bit more muscular, I'd say. But obviously Tallis Duncan will get that eventually. I thought Tallis Duncan was outstanding. Who stood out for you on the Indigenous side, mate?
Tallis, just to echo what you kind of said, like it's going to be good to see him used a little bit more. I think we all agree he was probably like a little bit underused last year for the Rabbitohs, but this just kind of showed like when you let him go, this is the sort of stuff he could do. I was pretty impressed with Josh Kerr as well. I thought he was...
The big fella that might be the best I've ever seen him play.
Yeah. And again, it kind of comes back to that, the purpose of the game and obviously having a bit of a leadership role. And I thought he spoke really well, pre-post game, all that sort of stuff as well. But he ripped in.
At 37 minutes, he ran for 154 metres.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he had 6 offloads.
Didn't miss a tackle either.
Didn't miss a tackle, 19 tackle. Honestly, it might be the best game of his career.
Yeah.
Like, that's how good he played.
Like, I've always loved Josh Kerr. And just for some reason, it's never quite happened for him to be like a dominant starting front row for clubs. Like, he's had some really good games with the Dolphins. He had a lot of really good games with the Dragons. And
He moved to an edge at one stage and then moved back to the middle.
I've always loved it, Josh. And especially he's got such an effective offload that he just creates so much good second phase play. He's a damaging runner. He runs a good line, like hitting the try line as well. So he can score a try. Just never sort of seems to get the bigger minutes in that starting front row. So there's something there that coaches are seeing, but he's such a good footballer.
I'm pretty sure if you go back and have a look at the 2020 Origin series, or it was a bit all over the place, I don't think he played a game, but he was in the squad and he ended up winning like their Queensland Spirit Award or something. Wayne Bennett gave him, and he didn't play a game, having him in the squad. Tell you the other one that I thought was really good, and I feel like about 3 or 4 times a year you get this reminder when you see him play, Brian Kelly.
Mate,
just go.
He's in my notes
so
too.
Talented, it's unbelievable.
And you know what he's in my notes for? Is his defence.
Defence, yeah.
Which is his big issue. His defence sometimes can, read wise. Like, he never lacks for aggression. He loves the physical battle. But some of his reads in defence, mate, his defence on the weekend, he was jamming blokes and making the right decision nearly every single time. And then obviously you can go to his attacking stats, and he ran for 153 metres. Which is actually 159 metres. So he had the second most metres of any player on the field behind Tallis Duncan by only a metre. 66 post-contact, 4 tackle breaks, a line break assist, 1 offload, 13 tackles, 3 misses. Brian Kelly has always been a bit of an enigma because there is so much. Remember he was at the Manly Seagulls and he was just like the next big thing. He was so talented. Goes to the Titans. 1 year, he'll be unbelievable. The next year, just a bit up and down. If he can just find a way to just close the distance between his best and worst, like put it this way, he's taken it to some of the best centres in the game and matched it with them. Whereas like there are certain centres who are more consistent than Brian Kelly, but they don't actually have the ability to match it with the best centres in the game, go toe to toe. Like his battle with, I think it was Katoni Staggs when they played the Broncos is always good.
Yep.
He's a bloody good centre.
How many games do you reckon he's played for the Titans?
100?
Yeah, 122.
122, wow.
Good knock.
Like, and that's in regards to durability.
Yeah.
Like, that's a bloody good knock.
Yeah, for sure.
So if he can just sort that defence out, and it looks like he's taken some steps, because I thought his defence was outstanding. Okay, in regards to any other boys, Curran. Well, one thing I was worried about with Curran heading into this year, he had such a big year last year, and all this praise, and the Doggies fans love him, and he's a cult hero, and very easy to head into this year and go, you know what, because his game is literally built on hard work. He's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, he's the hardest worker. Even if you become, let's say, last year he was working at 100%. If you head into this year and you're working at 90%, that drop off is actually way bigger than 10% because that's all you've got. You don't have the luxury of relying on the fact that you're 6'3", you're stronger than everyone else. And so I was really worried heading into this year with Curran that he would kind of be like, oh, you know what, great year last year, got a good contract, everything's good. Mate, he is not resting on his laurels. He was fantastic on the weekend.
It's one of the main reasons I can't wait for Leo Thompson to get to Canterbury, just to allow him just to put his feet up a little bit. Because what he put his body through last year, there was a period of time, I think there was a 6-week period where they lost Max King, and I just went, Canterbury's middle's going to fall through the arse here. Curran just went to another level again.
Yep. He is one of those guys that you have to protect them from themselves because he may work himself into the ground. But yeah, so I thought it was a great showing from the Indigenous side. Anyone else, boys?
Just one more that he never seems to get game time up at the Titans, and I can't work out why. Jacob Arlick.
Yeah.
I think he's great. He can play edge, he can play middle. The Titans he sort of seems to be in and out of that side a little bit, but every time I see him, I'm really impressed with him.
Another guy just quickly as well, Sykes from Manly. I thought he looked good, really good in contact. Just had there was something about him when he had the ball. Now, onto the Maori side. We've already spoken about KP. I just quickly, Dan Gagai. Talk about a fine wine. I know, there's some errors and, a bit of a messy game for Dan Gagai. But tell me a game when you've ever watched Dan Gagai and gone, you know what, he's not having a crack. Every game is like his last game. Every single game's like a grand final for him. And as I said, he might have a few errors and he's a bit sloppy defensively, he might miss a few tackles. But when you need him to make a big play, he makes big plays. That last play was just pure desperation. Just pure desperation. Somehow, some way, saves the try. I think earlier on it was Warbrick as well that had another try saver as well. But Dane Gagai, he's just the fact that he's still doing it at this level as well as he has, it's so impressive.
He's got a bit of the Benjamin Buttons about him, Dane Gagai. I remember like he must be a hard guy for Newcastle to plan for the future.
Yeah.
Because he, you look at a guy his age, you go, okay, we've got to start to prepare. But I think he's played his best footy in the last 3 years.
Man, I swear to God, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was sitting there going, I think it might be Super League time.
Mate,
Then he just went boom.
When he left South Sydney and went back to Newcastle, sort of went, yeah, I don't know if this is the right time for this signing for Newcastle. Like, he was great when he was there previously, but like if you had an argument that he was, would you have him in your top 5 in the game as far as centres over the last few years? I think he'd be right up there with them.
Statistically, he's absolutely up there. We'll put it this way. If from the Rabbitohs he went to Super League, I would have said, yeah, it's pretty good timing. Pretty good timing. Had a great career. Seriously, one of the greatest Origin careers you could ask for. And then he's just gone, nah, I'm still a top-tier centre.
And I mean, you have a look at the last 2 years, like last year at the Knights, breakout player, Fletcher Sharp for me, outside Gagai. The year before that, Dom Young was the top try scorer in the NRL.
Yep.
Both sitting outside Dane Gagai.
Yeah.
I feel like you've had one like proper sort of down year, probably coincided with getting dropped from Origin and that scene and all that. And then he just took it on board and said, nah, I'm not done. And like it was literally, I feel like it was one down year. And then since then, he's honestly got better every year just about.
Crazy. And you're right, there was like one day, and again, it wasn't from effort. He'd always rip in. It was just like bad reads in defence.
Defence went a bit haywire for about one season there.
But yeah, he just competes and competes and competes. Who stood out for you guys in the multi side?
Mate, I know we sort of mentioned him before, but Keanu Keeney, I know second year syndrome is a thing, I get it. I just think the kid is too talented. And you watch the impact he had the other night, obviously set up the try in the second half for them, but like he ran for 150 odd metres. He only played 55 minutes.
No. He just seems to, like, he's so small stature. And every time he runs the ball, I'm like, yeah, there's nothing on. And then just things happen. Like, it's like a pinball, like, just fall around him, and he just makes space for himself. His repeat efforts. And at the moment, and granted, we've still got plenty of footy ahead of us, but, like, at the moment, he doesn't seem to be overcalling things yet. Now, granted, he could start falling into that territory of, like, ruining structure because he wants the ball too often. However, at the moment, it doesn't seem to be happening.
Well, yeah, and with all due respect, I don't know how much structure there's going to be at the Titans. I think they're going to play like that. I think they're going to lean into it.
Yeah. What do you think about Kenny, Timmy?
He's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for the Titans. And I don't want to go down the same rabbit holes that we have in the past with them and their spine, but if Desi Hasler can somehow put this together, it's going to be a thing of beauty, isn't it? Because there are so many points and so many attacking weapons in there. And yeah, Keanu Keeney, as I said, I'm with you, Roo. I don't think there'll be second year syndrome with him. The people he's beaten out to lock down this fullback spot, it's a hot field, and now there's no doubt that he's their fullback all year. So good position to be in.
I thought Fish was good.
Yeah.
I thought Fisher Harris was really good. I was a bit, another guy, big contract, goes to the Warriors, 4 premierships in a row. Is he going to hit the ground running immediately? Or is it going to be a slow burn, gets to mid-year, and that's when we kind of see him? Because he's had such a big, almost half a decade, literally. Like, think about how crazy it is. Like, they've been in 5 grand finals, 4 premierships.
It's not almost. It's half a decade.
Half a decade of the main man that everyone's targeting. And so I was like, it might take a little bit of time for his body to kind of warm into this season. Nah. Goes out, runs 140-plus metres. Works his backside off. So that was in 53 minutes. He had 15 carries, 146 metres, 59 post-contact, 4 tackle breaks, 31 tackles, 3 misses. I just can't stress enough how hard it is in the front row to do what he's doing year on, year out. Like, it is so damaging on the body. The fact that he is still doing this in game 1, it's crazy.
Yeah, insane. Mate, another one that I think is going to be a really nice little value signing for Manly, Jazz Tavanga.
The Jazz Tavanga.
He got through a heap of work the other night, made almost 40 tackles. He's got a few errors in his game.
Just the errors that
it's just the errors, I get it, but like I think a change of scenery is going to be really good for him.
In Manly's match sim, I think it was with the Dragons, the little hit out they did, he started at 9 for them. Not saying he'll do that from round 1, but it does suggest, and I know, Roo, you're not sort of big on him at 9, and I would never start him at 9, but I think as a foil to whether it's like Lockie Croker's missing the first month or so of action, whoever it is, Jake Simpkin, they're obviously leaning into, rather than going the out-and-out two-hooker setup, whether it's Gordon Chan come Tong, Jake Simpkin in the year, they obviously want to spend him a bit of time at number 9.
It's just the errors. Like I don't think he can afford to go another year with brain explosions each week. And not each week, that's too harsh, but like every second week or whatever. Because I agree with you. If you can sort that out, his utility in the modern game, because a kind of similar-ish player to him, it's Aaron Clark from the Titans that gone to Warriors. They chucked him at 13, and he's killing it at the Warriors right now. And I think Tavanga could be a similar-ish kind of player because he does get through a bunch of work. He's got fast leg speed. He's quite fit. He's got good leg speed. He's never taken a backward step. He's good in defence. just the errors that I think he's just got to clean up a little bit. But I think that like those kind of body shapes, like Aaron Clark and Tawanga, they're like perfect in today's game.
They're more important than they've ever been.
100%.
He can literally play every position in the pack quite well, like not just filling in. Like if he had to fill in on the edge due to injury during the game, he could do that. We know he can play 9. He is a middle forward. We know he can jump into the front row. And then if a half goes down and he has to go in and just ball play in the halves to get through a game alongside a dominant half, he can do that as well. So that's so valuable to them.
Just the errors though. Like there were a couple that were just like, oh shit. But yeah, he can definitely suit the modern game at Manly. Statistically, wasn't that crazy? And, but just seeing Laban go across the way he did with the ball in one big hand, the try that he scored, just his physicality.
I get a lot of Eli Katoa sort of early days where he was with the Warriors and couldn't quite start, didn't earn that many minutes, wasn't even getting picked in the squad that often in the 17, but you just sat there and went, every time you watched him, you go, this bloke's talented. He's an absolute handful. And you went, when he did play, his output was pretty limited, but he was young, as is Jacob Laban, who's 20 years old. There's something about him that is going to be absolutely devastating. I think you're right, Kempy. Statistically speaking, he never really runs for the... And granted, we've only had very limited sample size, but even in New South Wales Cup, never those big 180, 200-metre games. He ran like 50 metres in this, but every time he did, it was devastating.
Yeah,
do we think he starts on the edge? Because it was interesting to note that Jackson Ford's played in the middle rotation for the Warriors on the weekend. So it's going to be one of these young blokes there. Vormega, Laban, Halasima, probably more of a middle, but exciting for the Warriors, which way they go.
Like it's so many options there.
Yeah.
Like even if you don't include Fort, they've got so many options. I think Campbell has one side unlocked. I loved, just like the thing with Campbell, and we'll get it to the trial, but just like the little things he does, his line speed, his communication, his ability to never stop working. So I think he'll lock one spot down. But I do think Webby is opening that spot up for someone to take. We'll get to the Warriors, but there were a few blokes who put their hand up for the Warriors. That's for sure. They're not short for numbers on that edge. I think it'll just be a who's the best defensive edge. So massive game to watch. Loved it. I can't wait for next year. And the Maori, they get up. So it just makes it even more intriguing heading into next year. Can the Indigenous get that trophy back? I absolutely enjoyed it. I loved it. Thanks to the boys for just showing so much passion. Those war cries before it, man, like the history and the tradition, think of 50,000 years ago, they're probably doing something similar, and just the connection to that. I think it's so cool to see stuff like that. I love history. So